I just recently came back to World of Warcraft, and in this expansion, I decided to play a class I'd never played before, which is a Shaman, and I've actually been having quite a bit of success in Battleground Blitz as an Enhancement Shaman. As of the recording of this video, I'm currently hovering around the top 10 to top 15 Enhancement Shamans in the game, which is pretty cool, and I think I have a lot of room to grow as I'm still figuring out the class myself. But I've had a lot of success, and I don't think that success has to do with me being a pro WoW player or anything like that. I'm just a normal guy like you guys are, but I have a pretty good knack for theory crafting and sort of figuring out obscure builds, and this build right here is very obscure. I'm sure some of the Shaman players are going to see my talent tree and go, what? You really didn't get that skill and you got this? That's crazy. But hear me out. So there are a lot of Shaman changes happening on the PTR, so when you watch this video, don't take this video as something you need to follow to a T and copy exactly. That is absolutely not what I'm going for in this video, because lots of stuff is changing. Even in the live version of the game, all of the top Enhancement Shamans, especially when it comes to Battleground Blitz, are all doing weird and wacky things different from each other, running different stat priorities, running different talents, running different hero talents. Everybody's doing lots of different crazy things, which is cool. So when you watch this video, kind of just watch it for my thought process and think of it as a different way of thinking about certain things, because I feel like I have a genuinely different perspective than a lot of the Shaman builds you see right now being run. Before we get into the specifics, here's a quick preview of what you can expect. Before we get into the gameplay and the talents, we need to talk about one specific thing that a lot of Shaman players just do not understand, and that is Stormstrike. Stormstrike is way more valuable in PvP than people give it credit for, and there's a lot of genuinely good reasons why people are confused on why this skill is actually as good as it is. So the first reason is that Stormstrike is broken up into so many different subcategories on the DPS meter that it doesn't look like it's doing that much damage. It's broken up into main-hand and offhand damage on DPS charts, and it's also just the way the damage text is displayed, especially in this expansion. There's so much shit flying out on your screen that you can't actually read it. So Stormstrike just on the surface doesn't look like it's doing that much damage. Also, Windfury and Flame Tongue, your two weapon imbuements, that is not really factored in when you do Stormstrike. I mean, those do damage, but you know your own brain doesn't really factor that in. Also, Stormstrike generates a lot of Maelstrom, and that's something, again, that people sort of take for granted. Also, you have talents like Ride the Lightning. Again, not something you immediately factor in when you are looking at your damage text on your screen. But, so you got all those things there that a lot of people just sort of forget about. But the most important thing is that Stormstrike functions differently in PvP than it does in PvE. So take a look at the tooltip right here on the bottom left of my screen. Stormstrike does 181,000 damage, right? Okay, sounds good. Now watch what happens when I attack this target dummy. I'm just gonna auto attack. It goes from 181,000 to 445,000 damage. Stormstrike has a PvP only modifier, meaning that it does more damage in PvP than it does in PvE. That means that all of the Icy Veins PvE rotation shit that you've seen is not accurate to PvP. Now you might be saying, okay, so Stormstrike does a little bit more damage. Well, it's actually a lot bit more damage. So Stormstrike does more damage. How big of a deal could that possibly be? It's a huge deal because it changes the values and the worth of all of these talents that modify Stormstrike. For example, Stormblast. Stormstrike now also causes 25% of your Stormstrike damage be nature damage. Obviously, that is more valuable when you do more damage with Stormstrike. Stormflurry, when you're just getting free random, 40% storms, like all of this stuff that modifies your Stormstrikes, Converging Storms, Crash Lightning, anything that modifies Stormstrike at all is now significantly more valuable. But not only that, anything that generates Windfury procs is now more valuable because Windfury can proc Stormstrike. So that makes Ice Strike more valuable. That makes Sundering more valuable. That makes this little bullshit Flurry PvE talent more valuable because it can proc Windfury, which can proc Stormstrikes. And it also makes these talents like this, for example, deeply rooted elements. Now that Stormstrike is something that is higher priority, that makes this talent better because you're doing more Stormstrikes, so this has a higher chance to proc because Stormstrike is higher up on the... Like, you get how one change can make everything change. When Stormstrike becomes more valuable, it turns everything on its head to where now all of a sudden Crash Lightning, even single target in PvP, is kind of worth using because it can proc a Stormstrike off of a Windfury. It's, you know, it's crazy how everything changes. And not only is it the talent trees that changes, your mastery gets better when Stormstrike is better because your mastery increases your chance to proc a Windfury, which can proc a Stormstrike. And also your mastery can proc a Stormstrike outright through your other damage. And it makes your shit do more damage. So, like, there's a lot of stuff going on here that changes just because Stormstrike is better in PvP. It's insane. Let's talk about talents. So I'm not going to spend too much time on the general shaman talents. I think those are relatively self-explanatory, but keep in mind we are playing totemic, which means your totems are better. They have bigger radiuses, more health, and in general, it's just going to mean that you're going to get more value out of healing stream totem when the radius is bigger. Keep in mind that the radius being just 15% bigger is actually a massive surface area increase. Go to a pizza calculator and just see how much of a difference 15% makes. That's actually a huge buff in terms of total surface area. So totemic is going to make your totems better. Even without totemic, I think healing stream totem is absolutely goated. Windrush totem, definitely get totemic focus for the I think it's worth investing in the better totems, especially if you're playing totemic. I think everybody gets stone bulwark. For the most part, all this stuff is pretty self-explanatory. Pretty much everybody runs roughly the same general shaman stuff, so I'm not going to waste too much time here, but your totems are better. Now talking about the totemic tree, that's obviously oversized totems. I don't know anybody that would ever play Swift Recall. Now let's get into some of the more controversial things. The Oversurge. You can absolutely run Amplification Core. It actually might be better to run Amplification Core, but damn is blowing people up with Ascendance, especially if you're running Deeply Rooted with the Surging Totem. Just fun as hell. So this one could go either way, but I've actually been liking Oversurge just because I play a lot of Battleground Blitz, and when you can just kind of overwhelm somebody with damage, you get a lot of kills that way. So I don't know, you can go either on this one. But when it comes to this talent, absolutely get Pulse Capacitor. Of all the testing I've done, Supportive Imbuements is just not worth it. It just doesn't do enough damage. I mean, even if you're getting halfway decent value with your Surging Totem, obviously Surging Totem in PvP, you don't have 100% uptime on it. But even if you have like very low uptime, it still maths out much better. So I feel like Pulse Capacitor just absolutely is the choice. A lot of people would think, oh, get Supportive Imbuements, you're going to get more value out of that in PvP because of totem uptime. But dude, it does so little damage that it's just not worth it unless they change it, and they might change it. So, but as of the recording of this video, this talent sucks. And Earth Surge, dude. Earth Surge is the thing I get because I am not running Lava Lash, which is insane. I know we'll get to it, but Earth Surge is amazing. I mean, it makes your Sundering just hit hard as fuck. Now let's get into the enhancement tree. As you can tell, I am heavily invested in Stormstrike. My Stormstrike damage is outrageous. So much so that I didn't even get Lava Lash, which I'm sure is throwing up red flags to all you Enhancement Shaman players out there. Like, wow, he didn't even spec into it. Like, a lot of people right now are specking like all the way down to Hot Hand, and I didn't even get the skill at all. That's insane. I'm not even taking advantage of 2 of my hero tree talents. Hear me out. This build does so much Stormstrike damage, and I am pressing Stormstrike so frequently because I proc it so much that I do not have global cooldowns to get it. I have tried this build where I spec into Lava Lash because Lava Lash is a pretty good skill, right? But I don't have time to press it. I'm pressing Stormstrike so frequently and proccing so many Stormstrikes off of all of the various ways you proc it, as well as all of these physical damage main hand skills that can proc Windfury, which also proc Stormstrike, that I just don't have the time to do it. And you'll see that in the gameplay section, and maybe we'll go to the target dummy a little bit. But yes, this build is all in on Stormstrike and Lightning Bolt. So speaking of that, let's talk about another controversial pick, which is Elemental Blast over Tempest Strikes. So Tempest Strikes does not cleave, meaning that if you hit multiple targets with your Stormstrike, you are not going to Tempest Strikes multiple targets, at least according to my testing. And Elemental Blast, I know it seems weird to play Elemental Blast. I get it, because you're not synergizing with the 20% refund on your Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning, and you're not getting the damage increase, so you'd think, like, just don't get Elemental Blast, right? Well, Elemental Blast just hits hard. It's really that simple. The thing just hits hard as fuck, and it gives you extra stats. Most importantly, it can give you 6% mastery, which is crazy. Mastery on this build, for obvious reasons, is incredibly powerful, because mastery not only can proc your Stormstrikes outright, but it can proc Windfury, which procs more Stormstrikes, which procs more Windfury, which procs more Stormstrike. It's just an endless cycle of insanity. So that's why I went there. Flurry, another kind of maybe weird talent to get, which seems like kind of a PvE talent, but more auto attack speed. You know, you're hitting so frequently that you're just going to have this up all the time. More auto attack speed means more chances to proc Stormstrike, more chances to proc Windfury, which proc Stormstrike. You get the idea. All right. Ice Strike. Why did I get Ice Strike instead of Lava Lash? I would think that some people would think, why not get Lava Lash? That, you know, isn't that better? Why not get Lava Lash and go that direction? Why not go this direction rather than Ice Strike and Sundering, right? Well, Ice Strike can proc Windfury weapon because it hits with your main hand. See how Lava Lash says hits with your offhand? Your offhand is doing Flame Tongue, not Windfury. Windfury is what procs Stormstrike, which means Ice Strike can proc Stormstrike, which also means Sundering hits with your main hand weapon, can proc Stormstrike. Why did I get Crash Lightning? Crash Lightning hits with both weapons, so it can proc Stormstrike. This Lava Lash cannot proc Stormstrike. That is the reason why I got this skill, and this skill. Well, Sundering hits pretty hard, but Ice Strike and Crash Lightning, their primary functions are to proc Stormstrike. That is why I went that direction. Now, you do get some benefit with Converging Storms. Like if you hit a big Crash Lightning, it will make your Stormstrike do more damage. That's fun and that's neat, sure. But the main reason I press it is to proc a Windfury and then proc a Stormstrike. That is the primary intended function. The rest of the stuff I feel like is pretty self-explanatory. You definitely do not want to get Elemental Spirits. This is a physical build with a lot of your damage coming from Windfury weapon and Stormstrike. So this might actually be a downgrade to get that. You want your wolves to remain physical damage multipliers, which is what you get baseline from Feral Spirit. So I think that's all we're going to say about the core talents. That's it for the core talents. Let's talk about the PvP talents. Shamanism, I think pretty much everybody runs for PvP. It's just amazing. And Stormweaver, I don't understand the people that don't run this talent. This talent is incredibly good. The off healing and just self healing from a purely selfish perspective, I don't see how anything competes with Stormweaver. I think Stormweaver is the best talent on this list. I think people are crazy for not running this talent. And finally, the controversial pick, which is Ride the Lightning. Now, this is a talent that a lot of people do not get. But I think in this specific case, because of how much you're going to be pressing Stormstrike, it's worth it. This talent is always working for you. Now, I know a lot of the Shaman players, especially, you know, a lot of the people watching this video for arena reasons, this is more of a Battleground Blitz kind of build. But even those people, like, not getting Grounding Totem is, like, crazy to them. But hear me out. Ride the Lightning is something that is always working for you. This is always doing damage. And the amount of times you are pressing Stormstrike, as well as the amount of times free Stormstrikes are going off with Stormflurry, you're going to get a lot of value out of this. And you don't even have to do anything to do it. You don't have to spend a global to do it. This is always working for you. And when we go to the target dummy and you see how often I'm pressing Stormstrike, you will see why. So I think this talent, especially for this build, criminally underrated. Oh my god, I am an idiot. I totally forgot the #1 reason why you pick Totemic over Stormbringer, and that is this talent right here, Imbuement Mastery, which increases your chance to proc a Windfury by 10%, as well as increasing its damage. But most importantly, it's the 10% higher chance to proc. This is massive. It doesn't look like it's that big of a deal, but when you have a 10% chance to proc Windfury, which procs Stormstrike, which can proc another Stormstrike, which can proc a Windfury, which can proc... That 10% is a big, huge deal. So this talent right here is where a lot of your damage, the damage bonus of going Totemic over Stormbringer, this is where it comes from. It doesn't seem like it would be that big of a deal, but 10% more Windfury chance when Windfury can proc Stormstrike, which can proc Windfury, which can proc Stormstrike, which can proc Windfury. You get the idea, right? It all self-feeds into a crazy, awesome feedback loop. This is a big deal. Huge. This is probably the reason why you pick Totemic over Stormbringer for this specific build. Now let's talk about your DPS rotation, or more accurately, your DPS priority. The #1 priority is Surging Totem. Surging Totem needs to be down no matter what. This has a 24-second cooldown and lasts 24 seconds. This is free damage. It's AoE. You're going to get a lot of value in PvP just from the random AoE damage it does. Have this thing down no matter what. Next thing, Feral Spirits. If this is off cooldown, hit it. It needs to be down. It's just free damage. It also gives you free Maelstrom. Feral Spirits need to be off cooldown all the time, with one exception, and that is if you're in your Doom Winds window. If you're doing Doom Winds, you need to be spamming main hand weapon skills, meaning Stormstrike, Ice Strike, Crash Lightning, Sundering. Any skill that does main hand damage is amazing in Doom Winds. And Elemental Blast. If you have 10 Maelstrom and Elemental Blast is usable, use Elemental Blast. Pretty obvious. And finally, Stormstrike. Stormstrike is the #1 priority outside of those other things. If you can Stormstrike, you better be Stormstriking. Even if you're at 10 Maelstrom. If you're at 10 Maelstrom and you don't have Elemental Blast, it is worth Stormstriking over Lightning Bolt. Which is crazy to say, I know, because that's not the case in PvE. But in PvP, the math is a little differently. When Stormstrike does as much damage as it does in PvP, with all the multipliers, with the Windfury, with Ride the Lightning, with all the other things working for you, Stormstrike owns. Now let's go to the single target PvP dummy, and this is going to show you just how much of your damage comes from Windfury. Windfury is exceptionally powerful with this build, and a staggering amount of your damage is just going to come from Windfury procs, more than you would imagine. So, I forgot to mention I am using Bloodlust in my Doom Winds. That's, I think, pretty self-explanatory for why you'd want to do that. So let's go ahead and get into it. Wolves, Totem. Then we're going to go Doom Winds Bloodlust and spam any ability that does main hand damage. Ignore Maelstrom. We don't care about Lightning Bolts or anything in the Doom Winds window. Don't give a shit. But as soon as that's over, then we're going to get the Ellie Blasts out. And we're going to try and get that second Ellie Blast out. Now we can do Lightning. Oh, we get lucky. We get a lucky proc there. And the Lightning's going to come out on its own. We are pumping. Now let's look at the damage breakdown. Look at how much damage is coming from Windfury. We got a deeply rooted proc, and still Lightning is not the top of the damage meter. We have a little bit of a dead spot here. We got to use some Frost Shock filler. But now we're back to Storm Strikes. Now we're in some Lightning Bolts. Got Sundering back up. Go ahead and throw that bitch down. A little bit of a dead spot. Now, here's a dead spot. Genuine dead spot in the rotation that you're not going to get in real PvP. That little 1 second dead spot, you're not going to have that in real PvP. You're going to be throwing down Healing Stream. You're going to be using mobility. There is no time for Lava Lash. Put up a Flame Shock. Flame Shock is kind of a filler skill. Frost Shock, kind of a filler skill. Doom Winds is back up. Let's fucking go, baby. Time to fucking destroy. And look at the fucking Windfury damage. That's crazy. Like 20-some% of my damage is coming from Windfury, and we've gotten deeply rooted procs. Isn't that crazy? Where would you put Lava Lash? Who wants to do shitty offhand Lava Lash damage when Windfury is this damn good? I don't. I want to spam Stormstrike like I'm doing right now. Look at this. Stormstrike, 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 Stormstrike. It's brilliant. I fucking love it. If I'm out pressing Stormstrike, I'm not having fun. All right. Well, I think you guys get the idea. Now onto the gameplay section of the video. what you're going to notice that I'm doing right here is I am just harassing the enemy healer. Healers in Battleground Blitz are disproportionately more impactful than DPS players. There's only 2 of them per team. So that means if you can occupy one of them by yourself as a DPS player, that is a fantastic trade. And that will enable your teammates to make better plays because you are occupying such a high impact player on the enemy team. Now, this is going to turn into a 1v4 here, so I'm going to have to bail out even though I do have my cooldowns. But this is going to help my team just be able to roll in. So I'm going to jump down here and pop a few healing surges on myself. And this enemy warrior is actually going to chase me. Now, what you're going to want to notice here is that I am very disciplined in keeping Earth Shield on myself. So I'm going to pop my shield wall here, pop a healing surge on myself, kind of regain control, and pop down the surging totem. Now we're going to get lucky, get a nice deeply rooted proc here, and I'm going to be very disciplined in just keeping my own health up, keeping Earth Shield on myself, and we're just going to slowly wear this guy down. Now we pop the Doom Winds. Going to start going Super Saiyan. This Balanced Druid is going to walk in my line of sight and get absolutely smoked with a Doom Wind Sundering Windfury damage. Whoo, sheesh. Then we're going to kill the flag carrier, click the flag, get the cap, GG. This next clip is a 2v2 with me and a warrior against a Ret Paladin and a Holy Paladin. And what you'll notice from this clip is that I have quite a bit of healing going on here. So we're going to start off on the Holy Paladin, and he's going to get scared from the damage coming in. He's going to bubble. Then we swap to the Ret, and I get a nice deeply rooted proc on this Ret, and we almost kill him just right here. And he's going to bubble at like 10%. Switch back to the Holy Paladin, and here's where I'm going to start throwing some heals on myself. Healing Surge myself, reapply Earth Shield. I have the healing stream down, and I'm going to even start, putting Earth Shield and Healing Surge up on my warrior friend. Get a kick on the Paladin heal there at the very end of the cast. He's going to die. Switch to the Ret. Make sure I keep my warrior alive with a Healing Surge and a Earth Shield on him, and that's going to seal the deal, and we're going to end up capping this flag. This next clip is going to show off some glorious Stormstrike resets. The only CC that's going to hit this guy besides Sundering is a random silencing shot at the end of his penance cast. But other than that, this is just Doomwind's Stormstrike damage that absolutely deletes this guy. And this final clip is going to show off the absolute insane damage potential this build can do. I'm going to do a minimum of 20 million damage in this sequence right here because my Ancestral Guidance heals for 5 million. So look at this. This is just insane. Doing 20 plus million damage in 10 seconds. Melting that hunter through his cooldowns, through healing. Me and a Mistweaver are holding off this entire team at the farm right now. Spinning the flag, self-healing, Earth Shield. So yeah. Anyway, I hope you guys found this video useful. Hopefully it'll give you a little bit of insight in the role that I'm playing in Battleground Blitz and how I've been having success. Keep in mind, this build will change. There's a lot of changes coming up on the PTR, but the principles of the build are not going to change. And I'm still experimenting with a lot of things myself, so don't be surprised if you have another video like this come out with a build that I'm working on is the complete antithesis of this build, and it's an elemental build. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. What are your ideas? Have you been trying anything and having success with it? Let me know in the comments below. Hope you enjoyed the video. Have a good one.